Words tend to escape during these periods of times, and I've only had a couple of other situations in my lifetime where I'm able to stand before you and say that. Why Libby? Why Abby? Why Delphi? Why Carroll County? Why the region? Why the state? Why even in the nation? I say that because this is a classic example and a clear example that evil lives amongst us. To the family, to the community, the region, the state, as a leader of the Indiana State Police, I say, I am so very sorry. Resources. It's unlikely that any of you will ever see, nor will we ever see or experience again, the level of resources that are attached to this investigation. To the media. My gosh, all I can say is to give you my sincere thanks. See, this isn't like TV. There's a perception that this can be solved very quickly. Anything that we do can be solved very quickly, but this is a testament that it can't, and we need you. We've needed you since last week. We need you today, and we need you tomorrow. And likely, we'll need the media all across this nation. So from a simple guy like me to you, I say thank you. To the people dressed funny like me and those that represent the law enforcement profession, please understand we're human beings just like you. I'd stand anywhere in the nation with people standing behind me. And I would suggest to you that every time something like this happens, a little piece of us dies as well. But I also want you to understand how committed we are as a collective one, and we will continue. This has been briefed all the way up to the director of the FBI, Director Comey, and Greg Mass is going to talk a little bit about that. I've had an opportunity to speak to my boss, Governor Eric Holcomb, a couple different times about this situation. And every time I do, I see this look that comes over his face, just like yours and this community's. And that's the unfortunate experience of experiencing evil. We're not stopping. The poster in front of you. Someone knows who this individual is. Someone knows who this individual is. Is it a family member? Is it a neighbor? Is it an acquaintance? Is it an associate? Or maybe that one guy that lives over at that one place that just kind of not right. Maybe it's his jeans. Maybe it's his jacket or his sweatshirt. Maybe it's his shirt tail. Maybe it's his posture. Maybe it's the right hand in his pocket. You see, even with technology, we need human intelligence. In other words, we need you. I'm not suggesting that science, that everything that we can do as science has been done, because we are just getting started. Abby and Libby deserve us. They deserve every single one of us, and not just the people standing up here on the stage that have given so much of their lives to not just this, but to this profession, but each and every one of you. Each and every person listening, watching, or seeing this in some form, we need you. Libby and Abby need you. Please do not rationalize tips away. Rationalize what you think that might not be important away. By thinking he would never do that to another human being. Or think, what I know doesn't matter. Let folks like the people that are standing behind me with such incredible passion and commitment and dedication to this profession make that determination. Tips are anonymous. Some might not want to talk about it because they don't want to get involved, because they know the individual. Again, he may be a family member, probably has family. No one will ever know. No one will ever know. There's not an agency on the planet better than helping us facilitate this than the FBI. And they're as entrenched in this as anybody. No one will know. As poor as this picture is, somebody knows. And if you're watching, we'll find you. Who's next? I hate to ask you that question. I'd give my life to not have to. But I know you've asked yourself that very question. We must recognize it. You see, we're all the same. We're all human beings. We must keep our resolve for Libby and Abby, for this community, and frankly, to ensure that good trumps evil. And it will. You're going to hear more in just a minute about what we know. Do not discount the voice that you'll hear. We will stay committed, with resolve very rarely exhibited with human behavior, until this conclusion. Please be patient. Become our partners and communicate with us as often as you can. And now, from a very humble servant, that's the most blessed guy on this planet to represent the profession that I represent, to Abby and Libby. It's my hope and my prayer that you're now experiencing God's promise of eternal peace.
At this time, I would like to invite Greg Massa, Assistant Special Agent in charge for the FBI, to the podium.
Good morning. As the Assistant Special Agent in charge, my role is to supervise and lead the FBI's criminal investigations across the state of Indiana. 9 days ago, we had an agent that was participating in the search for the missing victims. And from that moment until this morning, we have stood shoulder to shoulder with our law enforcement partners here. The FBI plays an important support role in this investigation, this joint investigation. I'm very humbled by the response that the resources that are under my direction have brought, and hopefully the contributions that we are making. On any given day, we have 20 FBI agents that are here providing investigative help, whether that's running down leads, conducting interviews, helping with lead tracking system, providing intelligence analysis support, providing technical assistance. Every night I update our FBI headquarters to our Deputy Assistant Director, and as the Superintendent mentioned, this has been briefed to the FBI Director on 2 occasions. So whatever resource that the FBI has available, whether it's here in the state of Indiana or nationally, we have brought those resources, and we will continue to do so. We were committed to working around the clock, as we have been over the last 9 days, and will continue to do so until this case is solved. To the members of the community, when I met with our behavioral analysis unit and their expertise and their experience, it is oftentimes even unwitting that a member of the community may have information that is germane to this investigation. And I'd like the community to go back 9 days and go back to the afternoon of February 13th, Monday, February 13th, and just think if you had an interaction with an individual who inexplicably canceled an appointment that you had together, or an individual called into work sick and canceled an important appointment or a social engagement, and at the time gave what would have been a plausible explanation. My cell phone broke, or I had a flat tire on my car. But in retrospect, that excuse no longer holds water. That may be important. Likely so are behavioral indicators that this individual may have exhibited since the afternoon of May 13th. Did this individual travel unexpectedly? Did they change their appearance? Did they shave their beard, cut their hair, change the color of their hair? The superintendent mentioned the clothes that this individual was wearing in the photo. Did they change the way they dress? Did their behavior change? Did their sleep pattern is different now? Did they start abusing drugs or alcohol, whereas they would not have? Have they been anxious, nervous, irritable? Have they followed this case and what the media is putting out with a sense that is not normal? Have they had ongoing discussions regarding their whereabouts on that afternoon or thereafter? Please, if you have that information, call that into the tip line. After this press conference, the FBI will be putting out a series of these indicators on our social media, so it'll be available not only to the citizens of this community, but across the state of Indiana and then nationally as well. We'll also be utilizing digital billboards, and in any way we can spread this message, we will. I'll just finalize my remarks just to say that to my law enforcement partners behind me, to the community at large, 9 days ago, the FBI stood shoulder to shoulder with you. We're not going anywhere. We will be here until this case is solved, and I am confident this case will be solved. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. We do have some new information for you today. It's in the form of an audio file from the cell phone that Liberty German had with her at the time. We're not going to play everything that we have, but Liberty had the presence of mind to turn on her video camera. Again, we're not going to be able to share everything with you, but we are going to share this audio clip with you momentarily with the hope that somebody will recognize this voice. And I want to be very clear that what you're about to hear is just 4 short words. Excuse me, 3 words. Down the hill. You're going to hear this played 4 times. The audio quality is not superb, but there's enough there that somebody could recognize this person's voice. And as Superintendent Carter said, not to rationalize away. If you hear this today and you think, my God, that sounds like fill in the blank, call us. Make an anonymous tip. Tell us who you think it is. Let us investigate it. If it's not the right person, they'll just be out a little bit of time and they'll be cleared and they can go on and they'll never know that you called. But you may tell us who the right person was. And you could be the person that helps us to solve this horrible crime. Micah, play the clip, please. Could you play it one more time? The image that you see there of the suspect, that came from Liberty's phone. I think many of you had speculated that before. We weren't prepared to discuss it at the time. We have more video. We're not releasing it. It's germane to our investigation. And it's important that we spread that person's voice far and wide for somebody that will recognize who that is and will call us and tell us. I also want to tell you that there will be a tip line. There's an email tip line. I'll spell it out for you, and it'll be on the website later, but if you want to copy this down, tips can be emailed to ABBYANDLIBBYTIP@CACOSHRF.com. So that is Abby and Libby Tip at cacoshrf.com. Phone number, email, call the Delphi Police, call the Carroll County Sheriff's Department, call the state police. Help us to capture the person responsible for these murders. Is there any specific information that says the person is local or from far away? No. Could this be a stranger crime? That's a possibility. Could this be somebody that knew that the girls were going to be there at that time? That's a possibility. Nothing is off the table.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The only thing I would add is where the FBI can come involved, and if it does lead interstate or multi-jurisdictionally, we have that capability to stretch it further outside of this immediate community across the state or across state lines.
Let's go one at a time. I'll let you do your follow-up, then I'll come to you. What's your follow? Go ahead and do your follow-up.
How long after Liberty posted to social media did this crime happen? Did the murders happen immediately after, or was there time for someone to see them on social media and then meet them on that trail?
As a special, we know that there are going to be lots of questions that we specifically cannot answer because there are things that we do not want to tip our hand to the person responsible for this. That kind of information we're keeping close to ourselves. Is it reasonable to think that that's an area, one of two things happen. That was a chance encounter. That's possible. Don't think it's likely, but it's possible. Or that person knew that they were going to be there. That's possible as well. Those are things that we're looking into. Question over here.
Online communication with this individual, has there been any evidence of that from the girls with this person?
Similar to what I just said, there's specific pieces of information that we're not discussing. The best example that I can give you is if somebody is a victim of a burglary and then they're murdered, everybody wants to know how they were murdered. If we go into the details and we say they were stabbed twice in the back and they were shot in the head, then everybody hears that. And then we get tips, people tell us that, and the tip is useless. We're keeping information that will only be known by the person or by who that person told. And when that's shared with us, it will set off the alarm bells and we'll know.
Captain, based upon what you have and other investigators have seen of this crime, do you believe this individual has killed before, and what makes you believe he will do it again?
Greg, I'll let Agent Massa address that.
There has been no indication right now that this is a part of a serial murder, if that's what your question is. So as of the facts that we have collected at this point in time, we have not tied it to any other known homicides.
After you played 3 words, you have an extensive volume of video and audio. You're not sharing it, and is there more?
We have other information that we're not sharing, and specific to your question, Raphael, keep in mind that there is the likeliness, the possibility of more than one person. We're not saying that the voice that you heard is the same as this person here. This is all very complicated, very involved, and as much as we would like to tell you everything, more importantly, we want to solve the crime.
Can you clarify those who you just said that is not the voice of the person? Just clarify that statement.
That could be or could not be.
So where's the audio from?
The audio is also from Liberty's phone. So again, she had the presence of mind to have the phone on and to capture video as well as audio. No, I can't.
To be clear, is that a loop that you're playing several times?
That is a loop that we played 4 times for purposes for you to hear it.
The cell phones were found with one cell phone. Did the suspect or suspects leave anything that you can talk about at the scene?
No, there's nothing I can speak to about the scene investigation and collection of evidence.
Did that photo come from one of the girls' cell phones in that recording?
Yes, and thank you for asking that, Paris. To clarify, the image that you're looking at here came from Liberty's phone.
Is it longer? Are you holding some that you can see how he walks? Is there any more of this image of this possible suspect?
There's nothing that we are prepared to release at this time.
Can you, I guess,
No, I can't say that because we weren't there. We know that voice was captured from her cell phone. We know this image was captured from her cell phone. Keep in mind, all of you are in the television business. What do you see out of the TV? You see this. You don't see what's over here. You don't see what's over here. So there's lots more that we're looking at.
Captain, how was it determined that he was the main suspect? Can you go into detail on that?
As I indicated before, the reason we believe this is suspects is based on the totality of the evidence that we've gathered thus far. That has led us to believe this is the person that at least participated in the murders of Liberty German and Abigail Williams.
The picture that you guys have, as we mentioned before, it seems like it's enhanced, and we talked about that a little bit yesterday. How enhanced is this picture? Did it come from a Snapchat photo that she had saved? Was he in the background corner? I mean, how far away was he from a picture that she might have just snapped on that bridge?
Now, we're not going to release that part of the information, but it did come from her phone, which entails that even though we enhanced it, it's the best we have. That's the image we're giving. And just because you and I do not recognize that photo, there, as indicated earlier, a person that works with what appears to be a male white in that photo might recognize him. Again, a family member might recognize that. Unfortunately, it's the best we have, and that's what we're going to go with at this time. If we decide to go other routes later, we'll let you know.
Captain, just to clarify one point here, do you believe that based on the evidence you guys have, that Libby turned her cell phone on and started recording specifically because this person seemed suspicious or was creeping her out in some way? And if so, what's your reaction to a 14-year-old having the presence of mind to do that?
This young lady's a hero. There's no doubt. To have enough presence of mind to activate the video system on her cell phone to record what we believe is criminal behavior that is about to occur. As far as the first part of your question, that's something we're going to keep close to the vest as part of our investigation. But there's no doubt in our minds that that young lady is a hero.
Along those lines, I know you guys have to keep a lot of it, close to you, but there's a lot of experience up here. Have you guys ever seen anything like some of the details we're seeing with this case? I mean, is this something that you guys do parallel with in other areas?
Well, unfortunately, when you're in the law enforcement business, there are crimes that occur in this nature. As far as the time frame and different things in my experience are unique to my career, but there are a lot of smart people standing behind me that will probably have a different answer. But again, rest assured, we're using our resources to put the person and or persons that murdered Liberty German and Abigail Williams into our jail here in Carroll County.
The only thing that I want to add to that is all of you have more questions than we can answer here today without compromising the case. I think we all can agree there's one thing we want to do. We want to capture the person or persons responsible for this crime. We wanted to get the audio clip out to you. We wanted to confirm to you where that image came from. We've accomplished those two things here today. We encourage you to play that audio to your audiences frequently over the days to come so that we can develop a tip to that tip line or to the email address that I gave you or to the website information that will be on the State Police website at 10:45. At this time, we're going to conclude the news conference. Thank you all very much for coming here today and to helping to spread the word. Thank you.
Welcome. I didn't really know what to expect when I stood on this trail just a little bit ago, over the course of the last 15 minutes, but it's a very uncomfortable feeling. We're a year today. I would be remiss to not talk about the people that have made this whole for the first year without an arrest. We talked about Sheriff Linsonby, who stands behind me to the left, and Kevin Hammond, Mike Peasley with the FBI, Jerry Holman over my right shoulder, Steve Buckley, the new prosecutor Nick McClelland here in Carroll County. What I've seen over this course of the last years are memories and times and comments and things that will stand with me and live with me for the rest of my life. The very best of humanity in the very worst of times. I was able to see from afar this community in Carroll County and the city of Delphi come together and support not only law enforcement, the people that were here that have given so much of their lives to this case, but also to the families. And I just wanted to say I am forever humbled. I don't know what you expected today, but I came to plead and implore you to keep this out front and center. I said before, and I'm confident I'll say again, I hope that one day when we all meet Abby and Libby that they tell us you did well. That's my hope. We cannot allow evil to prevail. Our world is completely out of balance, and we cannot allow that to prevail. I've said all along that we, as an agency, will be here as long as I'm breathing and as long as Governor Holcomb allows me to continue to stay in the position that I hold. I have the opportunity to brief him regularly. This isn't about how many hours we spend. It's not about how much it costs. It's about every single asset that the ISP has we will give to this sheriff, this community, and to each and every one of you. Because I refuse to accept evil as a standard bearer in American society, not here. People have oftentimes asked me, why is this so personal to you? It's personal to me because those two young girls were everybody's daughter. In this beautiful place that represents the very best of humanity. And look what happened. That's why it's very personal to me. And I just hope that one day I can look into the eyes of a murderer and ask him why. And I believe that we will. I believe that we will. I know you have a bunch of questions for me. But please understand, if the question has to do with the investigative process, tactics associated with the investigation, what only the killer would know, that we know, I can't answer your question. And I just ask you to ask for you to please understand that when we open this up. Many people have said, did you think it'd be a year? I don't know. I don't know. How do you answer that question? I believe we're one piece of the puzzle away from figuring out who this individual is. Then the real work begins. Over 30,000 tips. Thank heavens the FBI was engaged with us, with the Orion system and the expertise that the FBI brought from all over the country to allow us to manage that kind of data. We've had inquiries and requests for discussion from agencies all over the country, not only because this is such a high-profile case, but because of the complexities associated with the time since we found their bodies a year ago tomorrow. As I close my comments to you, I want to say thank you. I've had the pleasure of having relationships with our local media and our statewide media and even our national media for more than 30 years. I appreciate our partnership. I've had the opportunity to travel to the East Coast and the West Coast with Mike and Becky and the families to continue to perpetuate this message if somebody out there knows who this individual is. None of that's possible without you. It's really, really important that you understand how important and what the importance of the role is that you play. Technology is wonderful, but technology can also challenge us. I would ask that folks not continue to compare photographs on the internet. Please, if you have an idea of an individual, of a comment, of a phrase, of a name, that you send it to us. It creates lots of complications when that analysis is done outside of the purview of the experts that I happen to be able to represent. They're standing behind me today. So I hope you hear me loud and clear. If you're watching this and you're responsible, today may be your day. It might be tomorrow, but I can guarantee you your day's coming. We've got to perpetuate the relationship that we have, and we've got to not stop. Ladies and gentlemen, I've seen detectives that have given their lives to this case, that have held off and discussed holding off retirement, that have canceled family vacations. that work nights, weekends, and holidays so that we can explain to you one day and to this incredible community and to our state what happened. So our commitment is longstanding. It's real. It's as real today as it was 365 days ago, and it'll be as real tomorrow as it was today. We are not going away. We are not going away. With all that said, the floor is yours.
Superintendent, how do you speak to that one individual who said that they may be just a tip away? So how do you encourage that somebody, whoever they may be, to provide you with that information that you need to put the pieces together to solve this?
That's a great question. And the answer is each of you. I talked about that relationship. You see, in all of my career, I don't ever remember having the photograph of a person that we believe is responsible. I don't ever remember having the voice of a person that we think is responsible, or having a sketch of the individual that we believe is responsible. So, if all of you closed your eyes for just a moment and you thought of a family member, but you didn't think of them from the neck up, you would know how they stand and the clothes they wore and their posture. You would know that voice. I would know it if it was my father, just like you would know it if it was yours. Somebody out there knows who this person is. And fortunately, I'm not going to say unfortunately, fortunately, we have such a relationship with you that you've kept this front and center, because we couldn't do it. We couldn't do it. But you guys are. I don't think there's multiple pieces to the puzzle, ladies and gentlemen. I think there's one piece. And it's having one individual with the strength to say, that was my brother, or that's my dad, or that's my cousin, or that's my neighbor, it's my coworker. That's all we need. And I think we're one piece away. One piece. Good question, Raphael. I appreciate that.
Superintendent, how do you measure progress, and how much progress has been made in the last year?
Yeah, so another good one. How do you measure progress? How do we know if we're making progress? Tips. I think if we do this mathematically, it's over 30,000 tips. I've heard this guy say to me multiple times, Superintendent, when we're out of tips, we're going to start all over with the ones we got. There's this notion that this is cold. It's not cold. This is not going to be cold. I'm not sure where that comes from. So as those tips continue to come in, we'll continue to work them the very, very best that we can. We'll bring detectives in from all the posts around Indiana that I'm responsible for. And the local law enforcement entities that have resources, we'll bring them all together and we'll go out after the tips that we have. That generally leads to more tips, and then can lead to more tips. So we will continue to manage those tips, and when we're all done, we're going to start all over, because that piece of the puzzle's in the pile someplace. Yes, sir.
Daniel Nations has been called a person of interest. What does that mean for Indiana State Police when you say someone's a person of interest?
Well, I think the inverse to that statement is, until there's somebody arrested, we're interested in almost everybody. But we, as you all know, we went out to Colorado and we spent a little bit of time with him. And he's not a person that we care a whole lot about at this moment in time. And that's all I'll say about Daniel Nations.
Now that a year has gone by, do you guys have a new path when investigating this case, or is it still relying on those tips? Is it, what you've been doing every day for the last year?
Yeah. I think that repetitive nature is going to reveal something that's right before us, and we just don't know what it is yet.
Superintendent, you have been on the national TV programs. You have harnessed the resources of not only your agency, but also we have solutions of the FBI and Carroll County. Is there something that you have not done, sir? I mean, as you look at your checklist, what have you not done humanly possible already to look into this case? What is that? Is there something you haven't done?
You're going to get into my soul a little bit with a question like that.
Don't take your soul.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you why. I want to tell you why. Because of what my eyes have seen and what the eyes of these fellows behind me have seen that you haven't seen. About 3/4 of a mile from here, there is not a day goes by at the end of my day that I don't think is tonight the night that I'm going to get a call that something bad happened to somebody that I represent, an Indiana trooper someplace in Indiana. Or is there something that we haven't done that we could do? Is there a level of support that I have not given to this sheriff or to Jerry Holman and the multitude of resources that we have here in Carroll County? What are we missing? You see, we're human beings just like you. And this continues to play in our minds. Every single morning I wake up and I realize my phone might have rang, but everybody's okay. But is today the day in Delphi? Is today the day in Flora? It comes to my mind every single morning, and sometimes in the middle of the night. So I appreciate the question, Raphael. The answer is absolutely yes. I can speak for myself, and I can't even fathom what the folks standing behind me must think and the way in which it's affected their lives.
Like you mentioned, you have the killer's voice, you have his picture, you have a detailed sketch. That's more information than a lot of the cases that you guys have in the past to solve. 1 year later, you have all that information. How did you ever have to do it?
Answer the question for me. I wish I could answer it. I wish I could answer it. I've said locally, statewide, and even nationally that sometimes our citizenry doesn't trust us. And I acknowledge that and recognize that we are not without sin. I know that. And I would just like to think that the person that might know about this maybe doesn't trust us and doesn't want to tell us. Maybe they don't think we can protect them. Oh yeah, we can. Yeah, we can. And we've got to work to regain that community's trust, these community trust. And I think that we're getting there. That's not $1 million question. That's $1 billion question. And I'd give my life to be able to answer it.
Have you been able to clear anybody in this case?
I think that the people that we have talked to at this point in time, we feel confident that there was no involvement.
Sergeant Carter, months ago, it was mentioned, why haven't you released more of the video to give an idea of his gait, how he walked? And I think the comment was that you weren't comfortable at that time, you weren't at the point of doing that. 1 year in, are we now considering doing that? Is there more to work with?
No, we are not. We think that we've released enough now that if there's a possibility of identifying the killer based on that photograph, we'll be able to do that. And that's all I can say about the video and audio that we have.
Still serving search warrants and subpoenas. I know you said these guys work every single day. You see them here, always checking up on tips and
Yeah.
making phone calls. But there are still subpoenas and search warrants happening right now in Carroll County.
As needed, absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. That's an investigative process that will continue to perpetuate itself over time.
Can you say something about this suspect that you took a picture of? You know, do you believe he was a transient? Is he in the state? Is he anywhere in this country?
$1 billion question, isn't it? I don't know.
Would you say the case has slowed down? Obviously, not cold by any means, with so many tips still coming in, but has it slowed down a little bit? Maybe not as many leads, or
As with any major case, it ebbs and flows, right? I mean, the rhythm, it ebbs and flows. And this one is certainly no different. When it does slow down, it gives these incredible servants standing behind me an opportunity to take a breath. Then about the time they get that breath, something else happens and they fire right back up into high gear. I have no indication to believe that that's going to stop or slow down.
Detective Mann, you wouldn't mind answering a simple question. You wouldn't mind saying.
Yeah.
You made the mistake of smiling at me. How are you holding up? How busy are you? How are you handling this with your ability?
Physically, I'm handling it fine. As Superintendent Carter says, I think about this every night I go to bed. I lay in bed thinking, what could we have done today? Who do we need to follow up on? It's a never-ending with me. Weekends, I'm still working on it. There's weekends I've come into the command center and just do stuff on my own just to get stuff done by myself. So it's 24/7 almost for me.
having your local relationships with so many people here, and you've been on this case since the beginning, has that helped you and helped Indiana State Police?
It's helped a lot. A lot of the state police that come in from other posts don't know the area, don't know people, so they'll come into me or even Detective Liggett, who's also helped. We help them out, get them to the right people, and follow up where we can.
Detective, people are trying to find something to do. They want to be part of the solution. So what do you suggest that they do as we enter the second year? Besides giving you that call that you need, what can the public do to help you get the space on the right track so you can talk?
As far as local, the public's been fantastic. The support has been fantastic from Carroll County, from food to snacks to beverages. Just every time I go to a local store, they're, hey, we're thinking of you, we're proud of you. So the local support has just been great. But just stay vigilant. If you see something, let us know. I mean,
Is there a gut on whether the suspect could be local? If so, I mean, is there a concern if this
It could be local, it could be distance. At this point, we don't know. Again, always be visual of your surroundings when you're out and about.
How is this case changed for this person? You guys talked when Carter talks, when Tobe talks, every single investigator, you can tell it's really taken a toll.
It has.
So, I mean, seeing the family, having to give them updates, which sometimes are non-updates at this point, how does that affect you? So you go home, you can't get it off your mind.
It affects me because I have children at home too. So I am more vigilant with my own children than what I ever was before this had happened.
Talk about the significance, you guys have had this press conference at your guys' office in school research. Why here?
We had that very conversation. And having, was it going to be in town? Was it going to be at the city building? Was it going to be at the old office on the courthouse square? I was pretty adamant, in my opinion, was that it's where they would last were. And they walked right here. They walked right where I'm standing. I thought that's why it was significant to have it here today. And the response was, "What if it's snowing?" And I said, "Who cares?" So I think everybody would agree.
Your platform that you got to do in mentioning both the Patties and the Williams, so many different talk shows, national talk shows, you're able to get your message out there to so many people. That garnered so many tips. Is that something you're going to continue?
Listen, every single opportunity that we get to throw this out to the front, whether that be in a newspaper in small town southern Indiana, or whether it be on a national stage, Dr. Phil was 135 countries and I think 20 million people. Absolutely, yes. Again, it resonates with the relationship with all of you. Please understand the importance you play and how important it is that you're here. I didn't know what to expect when we flew in, but I looked down and I saw this line of cars, and I'm so grateful, so very grateful to you. It's my hope that the murderers, killers watching us. It's my hope.
Take two more questions.
If he is, whether there has been speculation on social media, whether he's watching now on TV or online, he may think it's a year I got away with it. Your response?
Keep thinking that. Keep thinking that. Yes, sir. Yeah.
It's been a year and over 30,000 deaths.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that people cannot identify him by that pixelated image. I just don't think it's possible. Is that what you guys are depending on? Is somebody coming in that identifies that image?
That's one piece, of course, and I agree with you completely. But that would be one investigative step for us. The other investigative step might be a hunch, might be a notion that someone has. It would be great if someone came out and said, "Yeah, that is this person, first and last name. I know it is." But
It has to come from an individual.
likely, very likely, from an individual. Yes, yes.
Still no update at this point, though, on the scientific element, as you refer to, not specifically saying DNA, but anything you could be still waiting for the labs, nothing updated?
No, the science piece of this, I'm going to keep very, very close to the vest. Very close to the vest.
Thank you very much for coming today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you all very much.
As I say, we're here today to talk about the Abby Libby investigation and about just that investigation in general. I want to say that everyone appreciates you being here, and I'm thankful as well. As when I say everyone, I'm talking about unified command. That consists of local law enforcement, ISP, the FBI, and everyone else that's working diligently to try to solve this crime. I want to express all the hard work and dedication from all law enforcement officers that have been involved. They've taken time away from their family, from their lives in order to try to solve this case. And so I want to say that I appreciate everybody's work on this, not only the people standing behind me, but everybody involved. This case has affected the community in so many ways. I know that I have the dedication of the people behind me and the people behind the scenes that they will not rest until we get this thing solved. Abby and Libby deserve that kind of dedication, not only from me, but from everybody involved. They deserve that from us. The community has the promise from me and from my staff that my office will do everything possible to support the investigation. I know that I have the full dedication of all the agencies involved as well. The goal is the same for all of us. It's to bring the individual responsible for these actions to justice. As Mr. Riley stated, we're not going to discuss the specific aspects of the investigation today. I've directed all law enforcement to review all requests with me, all public requests, before a response is given. That is simply to protect the integrity of the case. My main goal is to protect this case, to make sure that we don't do anything to jeopardize trying this case once we have someone arrested. And so in that vein, please be patient with any request that you make. Please understand that when you make a request through law enforcement, that they've got to meet with me, and we're going to meet as a group and give you an answer if we can, an answer that we can give you that doesn't compromise, again, the integrity of the case. Again, I appreciate everyone's patience, and I know everyone has the same goal that we have. And again, that's to bring the individual responsible for these actions to justice. So I hope everyone understands and appreciates that. I hope everybody understands and appreciates the process, and hopefully we can work together. Media is an important tool that we can use, an important tool that we want to use. We've had to date over 38,000 tips. On any given day, we receive a dozen or more tips. We anticipate more tips coming in after today's conference, and we're prepared for that. We have detectives, officers, and analysts working on these tips and investigating all possible evidence from these tips. All the tips are greatly appreciated. All the tips. We want to encourage people to continue to call in with any information that they may have. I always use the old adage, if you see something, say something. Nothing is going to be considered a dumb tip or a tip that we don't want. Information is our main weapon here. And so any bit of information that someone has, they need to call in and give us. That could be the missing piece that we need to solve this thing. That could be the missing piece that we're waiting on that ties everything together. I know the family has done everything they can to keep this in front of the media, to encourage people to call in tips, and I'm doing the same thing. I know the family's been fantastic. I appreciate their dedication and their resolve to get this thing solved. But any little tip could be the piece that we need. And so we want to encourage people to keep calling in those tips, keep giving us the information that you have. With that being said, we have put up today a poster here that's to my left. Now, this is what the Unified Command believes makes a good tip. That doesn't mean if you don't have all this information that you don't call in the tip. Even if you don't have all this, continue to call that tip in. Let investigators take that tip and let them track down what they can from that tip. So no tip is bad or irrelevant or unusable. Again, information is our main weapon here. So what makes a good tip? Name of the suspect that you believe it is. Any identifiers, whether they have tattoos, birthmarks, long hair, short hair, height, weight, beard, mustache, any kind of things like that. A birthday, an approximate age if you have it. Last known address if you have it, or where they frequent. Any explanation of why you believe that this is the person involved. And then finally, what connection they have, if any, to Delphi. Why do you believe that they're connected to this case in any way? So I encourage everyone to keep calling in tips, even if you don't have all this information, but in the ideal world, this is the information we would want. This is the information that makes it easiest for investigators to look into that tip and track down on what information they can. I would encourage people not to do side-by-side comparisons on social media, or not to state that they have a tip on social media, whether it be Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever that may be. That just muddies the water and hurts the investigation. If you have a side-by-side that you think is legitimate, or you have a tip that you think is legitimate, call it into the tip line. Either call it into the tip line or use the email or website address that we have where you can submit the tip through there. Let investigators work on that tip. Let the professionals take that tip and do what they can with it. Again, the tip line is outlined in the poster here. It's also, the email is also outlined behind me, so make sure that everyone gets that. Once a person sends a tip over email, you will get an automatic response. Then if an investigator needs to follow up with you, they'll call you or email you back Just understand you may not get a call back or an email back from an investigator right away. As I said, we expect more tips to come in now after this press conference, and that's the hope. The hope is that we can use media to get this out in front of people again. We want people to know this is not a cold case. This case is not closed. We are not done with this investigation. There are countless people working on this every day. So we want to get this out in front of people and want people to know we're still actively investigating all leads. We're still working on this case. I think about this case every day. I'm confident that we're going to get it solved, and I'm confident that I have a dedication of everybody standing behind me and everybody you don't see here today that they're going to work and dedicate their lives to this until we get it solved. This is important. So I want to thank everybody for being here again. I appreciate it. There's just not enough I can say for all the work done by investigators and by the family. I don't want to end this without saying thank you to the families. Thank you for everything you've done. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Sergeant Riley, and he'll take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. One thing we do want to push is we really would rather you use the email address instead of the phone lines. It's easier for us to get the information and to get that out to the investigators and let them go. So please, if you can, use the email address. That's what we prefer the most. We got a few minutes here for questions. If you've got a question, yes, Raphael.
Sure. Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
As a newly elected prosecutor, having a chance to look at the case with a new set of eyes, have you directed your office or the investigators to take another look, or have there been any instructions from your office to, as you have a mountain of information, to how to proceed with this case in light of the fact that you have 38,000 tips and counting?
Right, and so I don't know that that's my role to tell the investigators how to investigate the case. I want to be more of a support to them. If we have a resource in my office that you can use, I want to make that available to them. Having said that, I think investigators constantly relook at evidence every day. Is there something I miss? Is there something else I can do? So I think that's constantly going on, but in my opinion, it's not my place to give direction to the investigators on how to run the investigation. I just want to be a support for them with anything that I can do through my office.
Is a reward a factor at this point, or is it expanded?
Can you repeat the question? I apologize.
Is it a reward that being offered? Is that a factor at this point?
Well, the reward is still there. To my knowledge, I don't know the exact amount, but I think it's around $225,000. So the reward is still there. So I think that is still there available.
Out of 38,000 tips, how many of them meet those criteria?
That I can't comment on.
Can you give me a ballpark?
No.
Superintendent, how are the detectives holding up? How are you holding up? You have taken this, I think, personally, at least that's in your comments you've given us before.
Well,
I think we would be here 2 years later to talk about it.
Rich, no, I did not. And how this has affected me pales in comparison to how it's affected the family members, this community, and these incredible investigators that have committed, literally, they've committed their lives to this. I really appreciate the question, but we can't lose sight of that. But on the other side, I'm inspired by what I see. And I had somebody recently ask me about the word hope, and I have tremendous hope. Seeing what's happened has been an extraordinary journey for me. And most importantly, though, while we're standing up here today, I think all of us would probably agree the people that matter are flanking us. We just get to represent them. So, Rich, I appreciate the question.
Superintendent, I understand you may not be able to answer this question, but I thought I would just ask anyway. I know around the time that when Ron Miller was arrested for April Tinsley's murder, at the time, I know that you guys were looking into the methods that Karen Kwan and NanoLabs used to solve that case. Is that company working on this case?
Well, first of all, we're not going to comment on what we're evaluating and analyzing, but there's always an analogy to some other situation, which is good. I mean, we can turn that into a very positive, and I appreciate that. We can turn it into a positive because every time that happens, it causes these extraordinary folks that are doing this work to reset. That was asked a little bit ago. And not necessarily a reset of the entire thing, but it causes them to take a step back and think, okay, maybe there's something connected to that 2, 3, and 4 steps away, maybe. So as technology continues to evolve, we certainly hope one day that we can show our complete hand to this. But today's not the day to do that.
Superintendent, on the issue of hope that you mentioned, sir?
Yes.
The April Tinsley case was solved last year after 30 years. We saw also last year in California, the Golden State Killer after 40 years.
Right.
Social media played some role in this. Social media can sometimes hack your investigation. How do you put this in context, sir? Will these families be waiting 30, 20 years? Can you give us some idea of how it's all? I know you wish you had the answer, you don't. When you see those cases pop up, how do you put this in perspective?
Very personally, I take a walk on the trail. Functionally and professionally, I'm confident it's not going to take that long. I think there are a lot of things happening in regards to the way in which we communicate, social media platforms, as human beings, in all that we do each and every day. Somebody knows who this murderer is. Somebody knows. So I really believe that it's not going to be another April Tinsley case. I can't imagine what her family endured for nearly 30 years. And I don't believe it's going to be that way here in Delphi, Indiana.
How do you measure progress in this investigation? Say you're moving in the right direction, I think, or hearing. How do you measure progress, and what effect does the armchair detectives have on the investigation when they start putting up these side-by-side comparisons?
Well, I can tell you that Chief Mullins, Sheriff Linsonby, the FBI, all the way up to the Grant Mendenhall here in Indiana, we communicate all the time. But again, what we communicate is what we hear from those folks that are doing this important work. So that rhythm is going to stay strong. It's going to stay strong. What I've heard multiple times over the course of this, when we think we're done, we're going to start all over again. When we think we're done, we're going to start all over again. The FBI and the resources the FBI has brought to Delphi, Indiana have been extraordinary. And the technology and the pieces and parts to maintain a huge, huge case that we've had for now 2 years. So we'll stay diligent and we'll maintain that. What was the second part of your question, Rich?
The effect of the armchair detectives who do their own work and start putting up mug shots and social media pictures of somebody who they think looks like the sketch of the
Generally speaking, not helpful, and it hampers the investigation. With the way in which Nick is involved here in this county, the way in which the families of Abby and Libby are involved in this county, that is not helpful. It is not helpful. And as he said, forward us information, but don't do the analogy on your own. Please.
The person you're looking for could be listening and looking in. Is there anything you want to say about it?
You go first.
Thank you. Well, I guess I'm confident we're going to solve this case. So I'm confident that if he's listening in or she's listening in or whoever it is, that at some point I'll be sitting across from you in the courtroom. And so about all I can say about it, but I'm confident we're going to resolve this case. I'm confident we're going to get an arrest, and I'm confident we're going to solve it. So.
I'm sorry, I've got to take a stab at that. It's the first thing that my simple brain thinks of in the morning. It's the last thing I think of at night, and I know I represent everybody else that's dressed like me today. If you're watching, we're coming. If you're watching, we are coming. This county of Carroll and all that has happened here and all of the sadness associated with this county is unacceptable in a civilized society. But the flip side of that is look what's happened in this community because of these tragic events. I mean, the unity and the unification and what's actually coming of this and the positivity associated with human interaction is really something to watch. But if you're watching, as Nick said, I hope that I am able to stare him in the eye and ask him why. Because at the end of the day, the two behind me are the ones that matter the most, then the family, then this community.
Superintendent, there's been a lot of information that has not been released
At this point, we don't comment on anything about the investigation. We're here to focus on Abby and Libby and focus on that, look, this is not a closed case. And again, if someone has a tip for something, call it in. Let us investigate it. And again, this is what makes a good tip, the poster here behind Sergeant Riley. If you don't have all the information, it's okay. Still call in the tip. But I don't want to touch base, or I don't want to talk about the specific aspects of the investigation at this time.
Can you talk about why that's so important that you guys keep that information close to us?
The main reason is for the integrity of the case, right? At some point, this case is going to go to trial or come to the courts, and we need to make sure that the integrity of the case is solid. And so that's the main reason.
Two more questions.
So, Mr. Prosecutor, just to be specific, my colleague will ask, we know that there's video by a heroic young lady in Libby, Germany. Is there a reason why you don't release the video of this gentleman, the suspect, that makes sure his gaze or what he's doing? Is there a reason why you're not doing that in an effort to attack the case? Can you just put that in its context? I know you can't talk about the evidence, but we know it exists, so you know, at least address the evidence.
Well, unfortunately, and the fear sound like a broken record, it kind of falls in the same category, and so I'm not going to comment on that at this time. Again, I want to focus on kind of the things that I talked about today and just let everybody know that the dedication to solve this thing is here. It's not only here in my office, but here behind me and everyone supporting this investigation. And so I don't want to comment on that. I want to focus on, the fact that we've gotten tips, we keep getting tips, and we hope to continue to get them until we get this thing solved. So.
One more.
State Superintendent mentioned that the FBI has brought great resources to this investigation. Did the FBI discuss those, and the FBI doesn't get to comment?
I apologize, but no, we won't discuss anything regarding this active investigation, but we do provide any and all resources we have to support and advance this investigation.
So can you at least, I know you can't talk specifics, but can you use those global terms, what that looks like or what that means?
Any resource that we are capable of, whether it be technological or investigative, we are applying it, and we do it every day. That's all I can tell you. I'm sorry.
We want to thank you all for being here. We appreciate your time. Have a safe trip home.
Information is being released today is the result of literally thousands and thousands of hours of extraordinary investigative efforts by Delphi, Carroll County, the FBI, the Indiana State Police, and countless other agencies. This community surrounded us some 26 months ago, and you did everything you could to support us, but most importantly, you surrounded the family of these two little girls. Gosh, I'll never forget it. After you hear what we're going to release today, I'm going to ask for your continued support, your continued understanding, your empathy and compassion as we move forward to find out who did this, and we will. We're seeking the public's help to identify the driver of a vehicle that was parked at the old CPS DCS welfare building in the city of Delphi that was abandoned on the east side of County Road 300 North next to the Hoosier Heartland Highway between the hours of noon to 5 on February 14th, 2017. If you were parked there or know who was parked there, please contact the officers at the command post at the Delphi City Building. We are releasing additional portions of the audio recording from that day. Please keep in mind, the person talking is one person and is the person on the bridge with the girls. This is not two different people speaking. Please listen to it very, very carefully. We are also releasing video recovered from Libby's phone. This video has never before been previously released. The video shows a suspect walking on the bridge. When you see the video, watch the person's mannerisms as they walk. Watch the mannerisms as he walks. Do you recognize the mannerisms as being someone that you might know? Remember, He is walking on the former railroad bridge. Because of the deteriorated condition of the bridge, the suspect is not walking naturally due to the spacing between the ties. During the course of this investigation, we have concluded the first sketch released will become secondary as of today. The result of the new information and intelligence over time leads us to believe the sketch, which you will see shortly, is the person responsible for the murders of these two little girls. We also believe this person is from Delphi, currently or has previously lived here, visits Delphi on a regular basis, or works here. We believe this person is currently between the age range of 18 and 40, but might appear younger than his true age. Directly to the killer, who may be in this room. We believe you are hiding in plain sight. For more than 2 years, you never thought we would shift gears to a different investigative strategy, but we have. We likely have interviewed you or someone close to you. We know that this is about power to you, and you want to know what we know. And one day, you will. A question to you. What will those closest to you think of when they find out that you brutally murdered two little girls? 2 children. Only a coward would do such a thing. We are confident that you have told someone what you have done. Or at the very least, they know, because of how different you are since the murders. We try so hard to understand how a person could do something like this to two children. I recently watched a movie called The Shack. And there's also a book that talks so well about evil, about death, and about eternity. To the murderer, I believe you have just a little bit of a conscience left. And I can assure you that how you left them in that woods is not what they're experiencing today. To the family, I hope that you all will give them some time, because we're going to be asking that there's no media inquiry or no media response for at least the next 2 weeks, and I hope you understand why. The family found out about this information this morning. I just want the family to know that when I take my last breath on this earth, I'll be thinking of them. There's going to be a tremendous amount of questions. I know that. I know that. Never in my career have I stood in front of something like this. Please be patient with us, please. We're just beginning. We are just now beginning. And I can tell you on behalf of the sheriff and the police chief, so many other partners that have stood with us over this period of time, that we will not stop.
I just unveiled the person that we believe responsible for the murder of these two little girls. So I invite media to take a look at that now. It's not up. Kim? We're also going to show you a video not previously released that Superintendent spoke to, and also the audio that's additional to what's been previously released. It's only a slight change in it. So give Sergeant Riley just a second as he gets that up and ready. Stand by for the video, please. There is no sound of the video. As Superintendent Carter mentioned, he is on the railway bridge. You have to take different steps to get to it. This information later this afternoon will be on the State Police website.
After you hear what we're going to release today, I'm going to ask for your continued support, your continued understanding, your empathy and compassion as we move forward to find out who did this, and we will. We're seeking the public's help to identify the driver of a vehicle that was parked at the old CPS DCS welfare building in the city of Delphi that was abandoned on the east side of County Road 300 North, next to the Hoosier Heartland Highway, between the hours of noon to 5 on February 14th, 2017. If you were parked there or know who was parked there, please contact the officers at the command post at the Delphi City Building. We are releasing additional portions of the audio recording from that day. Please keep in mind, the person talking is one person and is the person on the bridge with the girls. This is not two different people speaking. Please listen to it very, very carefully. We are also releasing video recovered from Libby's phone. This video has never before been previously released. The video shows a suspect walking on the bridge. When you see the video, watch the person's mannerisms as they walk. Watch the mannerisms as he walks. Do you recognize the mannerisms as being someone that you might know? Remember, he is walking on the former railroad bridge. Because of the deteriorated condition of the bridge, the suspect is not walking naturally due to the spacing between the ties.
Greg, if you're listening, message me.
During the course of this investigation, we have concluded the first sketch released will become secondary as of today. The result of the new information and intelligence over time leads us to believe the sketch, which you will see shortly, is the person responsible for the murders of these two little girls. We also believe this person is from Delphi, currently or has previously lived here, visits Delphi on a regular basis, or works here. We believe this person is currently between the age range of 18 and 40, but might appear younger than his true age. Directly to the killer, who may be in this room. We believe you are hiding in plain sight. For more than 2 years, you never thought we would shift gears to a different investigative strategy, but we have. We likely have interviewed you or someone close to you. We know that this is about power to you. And you want to know what we know. And one day, you will. A question to you. What will those closest to you think of when they find out that you brutally murdered 2 little girls? 2 children. Only a coward would do such a thing. We are confident that you have told someone what you have done. Or at the very least, they know because of how different you are since the murders. We try so hard to understand how a person could do something like this to two children. I recently watched a movie called The Shack. And there's also a book that talks so well about evil, about death, and about eternity. To the murderer. I believe you have just a little bit of a conscience left. And I can assure you that how you left them in that woods is not what they're experiencing today. To the family, I hope that you all will give them some time, because we're going to be asking that there's no media inquiry or no media response for at least the next 2 weeks, and I hope you understand why. The family found out about this information this morning. I just want the family to know that when I take my last breath on this earth, I'll be thinking of them. There's going to be a tremendous amount of questions. I know that. Never in my career have I stood in front of something like this. Please, be patient with us, please. We're just beginning. We are just now beginning. And I can tell you on behalf of the sheriff and the police chief, so many other partners that have stood with us over this period of time, that we will not stop.
I just unveiled the person that we believe responsible for the murder of these 2 little girls. I invite media to take a look at that now.
Oh, wow. It's a totally different skin.
We're also going to show you a video not previously released the superintendent spoke to, and also the audio that's additional to what's been previously released. It's only a slight change on it. So give Sergeant Rodwood just a second as he gets that up and ready. Stand by for the video, please. There is no sound of the video. As Superintendent Carter mentioned, he is on the railway bridge. You have to take different steps to get to it. This information later this afternoon will be on the State Police website. For the community that's here, we have 100 copies of the news release. If you put in that URL, you'll be able to get to that site to play it. And we also have that same release for you in the media. And the rest of the state will get that release in about 15 minutes. So we appreciate those of you that came here. This concludes our announcement. Thank you for your time, patience, and courtesy.
Just the script that, no, just the one that I sent you from before.
We'll run the video for you, Deb.
Good, yeah. You want the video? That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Did you plug in? I didn't dial you. This looks like the one of the lady that sold it to me. She's,
Well, no, but just currently.
Hang on, we got a video up. Do the video first. Let me know when you're ready.
This is the new sketch.
Tip it up.
We're going to switch to our website. It should be able to
Good.
continue to play.
Thank
there.
you. Hold it there.
Forward. Thank you so much.
Everybody good? Press release, press release.
Yes.
The video now playing is from the State Police website. The website has been updated with the audio track. Those of you that have visited that site before, you'll be able to find it there.
I hope and pray they're on for me.
And we will leave it running on that computer screen, and we'll leave it running here for the next 10 minutes. Thank you. Any media that doesn't have the release yet, raise your hand. Sergeant Slocum, Sergeant Boner will get it to you.
And there's a lady behind you right here. Can you get that to her?
Who you calling a lady?
You.
Are you Slocum?
I am.
I'm Debbie from the Comet.
I know.
Okay.
Totally different, you know.
What's that, man?
Good. Thank you.
All media have a release to one more.
It's great to meet you.
Yes, one of the guys.
I mean, it's like a younger guy. That's where the diagnostic. I think this guy is the one that owns the side.
He's got an old man walk like me.
Have you ever walked on that bridge?
No, but he looks
Got
like
a
he's
couple
walking like an
questions
old
asked
man.
about the car. The car we're looking for was on February 13th. May have been said the 14th before. It was February 13th. The vehicle was parked at the old CPS DCS Welfare Building, abandoned on the east side of County Road 300 North, next to the Hoosier Heartland Highway. That was between the hours of noon and 5 on February 13th.
Is there a description of the vehicle?
I do not have a description. One more time for everybody that didn't get that. We're looking for the identity of the driver of a vehicle that was parked at the old CPS DCS Welfare Building that was abandoned on the east side of County Road 300 North, next to the Hoosier Heartland Highway, between the hours of noon and 5 on February 13th. That's all the information I have.
Okay, now I can do it. No, I can't do it.
Look at this picture. I mean, that guy, is it between the ages of what, 20 and 40?
18 and 40. 18 and 40.
18 and 40, okay, thank you. The age that they think this guy is, that he may look younger than what he actually is. Here's an eye, here's another.
I appreciate it.
He's either from Delphi or has been here, lived here.
I'm from here. I'm gonna look.
Just look at some of the high school yearbooks. I don't know.
The same words.
He
Distinguished.
may not maybe have gone to the Delphi school system, I don't know. But I'm glad you're here. I've gone to the library and
They don't want us bothering them right now, so we'll probably leave them alone.
78 to now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
What kind of names would he have? Probably a common name too. Jacob? I mean, who knows?
Well, this is a whole different look. Yeah, but I don't think that kid, that guy, or that guy, they don't look the same. They don't look like, this is even more confusing. This is more confusing than almost now.
Did you hear anything different in that audio except for the interference?
Yeah, no, it just sounded
I
interference.
mean, the other one.
Yeah, there was some type of a preface there, but I don't know.
I wonder if they would play the audio again.
Something came before the words
Yes,
down the
it
hill,
did,
but the
yes.
down the hill part sounded
Yeah.
the same as what they released back in.
My friend saw the white truck, and he's the one that told me about it, because he drives by there every
They
single
didn't
day.
describe the car. What do you mean the white truck? Just now they never described the car. He said he had no description of the car.
I'm just assuming it's the white truck that was there.
Wow.
Yeah,
He would.
that my friend
We
saw.
just asked him
Okay.
specifically, like 2 minutes ago, can you describe the vehicle? And he said, we have no description. Or we.
That maybe they don't want to lead people or whatever, but I do know there was a white truck there.
Can Doug Wiggs maybe possibly? Wow. Big one.
Yeah, big well. Let's go. I've seen him on.
I feel like they have an idea who it is because they were talking about the family finding them.
Even James Lucas is where is he? He's standing back there.
I think he loves plus publicity, huh?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. SKs love it.
I'm going to finish this, guys, one more time. He's walking.